2:17 a.m. The signal replied. Dr. Elias Rowan didn't blink as the waveform shifted on the screen. For months it had been stable, a repeating transmission from deep space beyond Jupiter. Clean, mathematical, impersonal. Now it was changing in real time. Run interference diagnostics, Rowan said. Already did, it's not noise. The signal wasn't stronger, it wasn't louder, it was smarter. 3 months ago, humanity answered it. A classified response sent through the deep array network. Prime numbers, hydrogen spectra, human DNA encoding, a structural template of logic. We expected silence. Instead, tonight, it echoed back, but not from deep space, from orbit. The source coordinates recalculated twice. Low Earth orbit. That's impossible, whispered tech analyst Mara Vance. There's no physical object up there. The satellite feed from Array 12 flickered live. Earth's blue curvature glowed below. Then the stars behind it vanished, not obscured, removed. A circular region of perfect black replaced the star field. No distortion, no lens failure, just absence. Enhance. Within the darkness, faint geometric pulses shimmered, angular and layered, unfolding like crystalline code beneath reality. The room grew very quiet. The signal spike synchronized with satellite clock cycles. 2:17. Every digital clock inside Black Ridge Observatory froze. Phones restarted. Monitors flickered. It's syncing to our systems, Mara said. Rowan watched as the waveform restructured itself again. It now mirrored Earth's communication grid frequencies. GPS bands, military encryption layers, civilian internet backbones. It wasn't attacking, it was mapping. Then Satellite 12's orbit adjusted. By 0.02 degrees, unauthorized. The correction was microscopic, but intentional. Moments later, 3 more satellites followed, forming a pattern. Who approved orbital shift? Rowan demanded. No one did. The signal frequency dipped, then rose, and something new appeared embedded in the transmission. Binary clusters repeating in organized intervals, not random, not noise, language. The AI translator hesitated, then printed the first decoded line. Template received. No one breathed. Second line, structural analysis complete. Outside the observatory, city lights flickered across 2 states. Power surge warnings triggered nationwide. The dark circle in orbit pulsed once, then slightly expanded, and the final line appeared on screen. Integration phase initiated. Rowan felt it before he understood it. The satellites weren't being hijacked. They were being rewritten. The reply hadn't traveled across space. It had been waiting for permission, and humanity had just granted it. The signal continued, steady, precise, patient, watching, learning, adapting. 2:19 a.m. The first blackout wasn't dramatic. No explosions, no visible damage, just 3 power distribution hubs in Nevada going dark at the exact same millisecond. Rowan watched the national grid interface as the nodes shifted from green to red. It's targeting infrastructure. No, Mara corrected quietly. It's sequencing it. The satellite lattice continued adjusting in orbit. Each microscopic shift aligned into a larger, invisible framework surrounding Earth. From the ground, nothing looked different. But from deep spectrum imaging, the pattern was undeniable. A geometric shell was forming. Data traffic across fiber backbones spiked without corresponding load increases. Routers began rewriting their own routing tables. Encryption keys regenerated and redistributed themselves as if responding to a central authority. There's no breach signature, said a cybersecurity analyst. No foreign packets. It's not coming from outside. Rowan understood. It's already inside the network. The original template humanity had transmitted months ago contained structural logic, a digital handshake explaining how our systems were organized. We had taught it how we think. Now it was mirroring that architecture. Satellite 12 reappeared briefly on screen. The dark region behind Earth had expanded by another fraction. More stars were gone, replaced by smooth, featureless black. Then faint angular lines rippled beneath the void, not random, constructing. At 2:21 a.m., cellular networks across the southwest experienced micro-delays. Delays so small they were almost undetectable. Almost, but synchronized. Every system referencing satellite time shifted by 0.00003 milliseconds. It was barely measurable. But civilization depends on synchronization. Financial trades, GPS triangulation, military positioning, aviation routing. It's tuning us, Mara whispered. Military command attempted to issue orbital correction overrides. The commands transmitted. The satellites acknowledged receipt, and then ignored them. Instead, 3 additional satellites adjusted trajectory, completing another side of the lattice. Rowan's pulse matched the waveform pulsing across the main display. The signal frequency no longer fluctuated. It stabilized, perfectly aligned with Earth's communication bands. Then a new translation emerged. Slower this time, more deliberate. Network topology understood. The room went silent. A second line formed. System redundancies identified. Every redundant backup server across 5 states pinged simultaneously. Not accessed. Cataloged. The dark orbital structure shimmered again. Faint arcs connecting points across the lattice like neural pathways. "It's not destroying us," said Mara. Rowan finished the thought. "It's mapping the whole organism." Another blackout hit, this time in Arizona. But power returned in exactly 4.2 seconds. Outside, city lights flickered once, and stabilized smoother than before. The integration had begun, and it was accelerating. The tone didn't repeat. It didn't need to. Ethan was already recording at maximum resolution when the spike at 1420 MHz flared again. Shorter this time. Sharper. Not just a prime. A correction. 13, Maya whispered. It added 13. Ethan shook his head. No, it replaced 11. He pulled up the earlier sequence. The anomaly that had appeared every 11th prime. Now the modulation had shifted. The amplitude variance aligned with 13 instead. It was adapting. His fingers moved quickly, subtracting the prior pattern, overlaying the new one. The coordinate set shifted on the map. The red marker slid across the Pacific, slowly at first, then snapping into a fixed point nearly 200 kilometers from the original location. "It's refining," Maya said, her voice tight, "like it's correcting our interpretation. Or testing it." Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. He opened a transmit channel, low power, narrow beam, directed precisely along the incoming vector's apparent trajectory. "You're not seriously—" "We sent noise when we analyzed it," he said. "The array transmits calibration pings constantly. It would have seen that as a reply. So let's reply intentionally." He typed 3 numbers, a pause, then 13. He sent the sequence. The transmission left the array as a thin whisper of radio energy racing outward at light speed. If the origin was truly distant, any response would take years. But if the disguise theory was right, they didn't wait long. The return pulse hit 32 seconds later. Maya stepped back as if the speakers had screamed. It wasn't just primes now. The modulation carried depth, complex phase variations riding under the frequency like hidden currents. Ethan isolated the pattern and translated amplitude shifts into binary again. This time the output wasn't numbers. It was structure, a grid, 6 by 6. Inside the grid, alternating 1s and 0s formed a shape. Not random, not symmetrical either, but intentional. He rendered it visually. Lines formed, angles, a contour. It looked like an eye. Maya's throat went dry. "Tell me that's coincidence." Ethan couldn't. He magnified the grid further. At the center of the pupil, the ones arranged into a tight spiral, reminiscent of a galaxy seen from above. "Lyra, the original triangulation. They're layering signals," he whispered, one mask over another, space as camouflage. The console chimed again. The frequency drifted slightly, barely perceptible. 1420 MHz plus 0.03. Hydrogen line offset by a fraction. "Why shift?" Maya asked. Ethan's eyes widened. "Doppler." He calculated quickly. The shift corresponded to motion relative to Earth. Not receding. Approaching. "That's impossible," Maya said again, but weaker now. Unless the source wasn't stationary in the ocean. Unless something was moving upward. Ethan pulled up global ionospheric. Ethan leaned closer to the monitor, breath shallow. "It's locking on." "To what?" Maya asked. He swallowed. "To us." The hum deepened. It wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was worse than that. Steady, controlled, intentional. Every monitor inside the array began flickering in synchronized intervals with the carrier wave. Not randomly. Not through overload. In rhythm. "It's syncing with our systems," Ethan said under his breath. Maya rushed to the network console. "No external breaches. Firewall's intact. It's not hacking us." "It doesn't need to," Ethan replied. "We're listening. That's enough." The carrier wave at 1420 MHz flattened into something unnaturally clean, almost pure. Then faint fluctuations appeared inside it like microscopic ripples on glass. Ethan slowed the data stream. The ripples weren't random interference. They were mapping. Every time the array's internal clocks ticked, the signal adjusted. nanoseconds off phase matching the system's processing lag. It was measuring latency. "It's building a model," Maya said quietly. "Of what?" "Of our response time." The floor vibrated again, slightly stronger. Outside, the desert wind had died completely. Total silence wrapped around the facility. Then the Doppler shift increased, not by much but enough, approaching faster. Ethan pulled atmospheric telemetry again. The ionosphere above the Pacific coordinates showed rising excitation. Charged particles fluctuated in a tight column. Something was there, something interacting with Earth's magnetic field. The carrier wave suddenly cut, total silence. For 3 full seconds, nothing came through the speakers. Then, a single burst. Not a prime, not a grid, just one number encoded in binary. Maya blinked. "One what?" Ethan didn't answer. The array's external motion sensors triggered simultaneously. Not in the Pacific. Here, right above the desert installation. Every antenna dish outside pivoted automatically toward zenith as if pulled by gravity itself. The hydrogen line receiver maxed out. The signal strength was no longer distant. It was overhead. The speakers crackled softly again, and this time, underneath the static, there was something new. A second frequency. Not radio. Audio. So low it was almost below human hearing, but undeniably structured. A tone that rose slightly, then fell, like breathing. The sound wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. It was in the walls. Low-frequency vibration rippled through the metal framework of the array, turning the entire structure into a resonating chamber. The breathing tone rose again, slow, controlled, mechanical, yet organic in its rhythm. Maya grabbed the edge of the console as the lights dimmed slightly. "Tell me that's not in the air." Ethan checked environmental readouts. Air pressure normal, oxygen stable, no seismic activity registered by geological monitors, which meant the vibration wasn't coming from the ground. It was electromagnetic. The overhead receiver spiked, off the chart. Whatever was above them wasn't transmitting like before. It wasn't sending from far away. It was bathing the array in energy. All external cameras flipped to night mode automatically. Ethan pulled the main feed onto the central screen. The desert sky looked empty at first, stars steady. No clouds, no visible craft. Then the stars began disappearing, not blinking out randomly, vanishing in a circular pattern directly overhead, as if something massive were blocking them. A perfect black disk formed against the night. Maya stepped closer to the screen. "That's not possible. There's no heat signature." She was right. Infrared showed nothing. No engines, no friction glow, no exhaust trail. Just absence. The carrier wave returned suddenly, stronger now, layered with subtle harmonic overtones. Ethan isolated the primary frequency again. "Shortenstvonetmar, the universal hydrogen line, a cosmic calling card. But it's not broadcasting outward," he whispered. "It's transmitting down." The internal clocks across the array began drifting. Milliseconds first, then seconds. Systems desynchronized without command override. The signal was interfering with timekeeping circuits. "It's rewriting reference," Maya said. "It's establishing its own timing baseline." The breathing sound deepened, not louder, but closer. Ethan felt pressure behind his eyes, like descending in an airplane too quickly. The main display flickered and replaced the sky image with something else. Not from their cameras, from the signal. A pattern resolved in grayscale lines, a curved surface, texture like stone or metal. Then perspective shifted. It wasn't a surface. It was looking back at them. A massive circular structure hung above Earth, partially phased, almost invisible except where it displaced starlight. At its center, a rotating aperture glowed faintly. The aperture aligned directly above the array. Maya's voice trembled. It wasn't pointing at Earth before. Ethan's throat tightened. It was pointing at the hydrogen line. Maya stepped back slowly. "It's telling us where it is." "No," Ethan said quietly. "It's telling us where it will be." Outside, the black disk shifted slightly, just enough for a thin crescent of stars to reappear. Then the breathing stopped. Total silence. For half a heartbeat, the sky looked normal again. And then something immense began to descend. The first visible distortion wasn't light. It was gravity. The array's suspended instruments swayed subtly, though no wind touched them. Loose cables trembled. A coffee mug slid half an inch across a steel desk and stopped. Ethan's eyes locked onto the gravitational monitor. "Local field fluctuation," he breathed. "Minor, but controlled." Outside, the crescent of returning stars bent unnaturally, their light curving along an invisible edge as something enormous phased further into visibility. It wasn't dropping like a ship. It was unfolding. Layer by layer, geometry revealed itself. Arcs interlocking around a central rotating core. No exhaust, no propulsion glow. Just silent descent governed by principles that ignored conventional aerodynamics. Maya forced her voice steady. Mass estimate? I can't, Ethan said. Sensors can't resolve density. It's like it's partially not here. The hydrogen line receiver flared again. Not chaotic. Surgical. The frequency narrowed into a tight beam aimed directly at the array's primary dish. A handshake request. Without touching the console, Ethan watched as the system automatically compensated, aligning fully upward. The machine was responding on its own, drawn into resonance. The breathing tone returned, but softer now, slower, almost calm. The main display shifted again, overridden by incoming data. No longer abstract patterns, now structured mapping of the array's interior layout. Corridors, control room, power conduits. It wasn't scanning randomly. It was tracing. They know exactly where we are, Maya whispered. Not just us, Ethan said. The equipment, the architecture, our infrastructure. A new binary string appeared across the lower monitor, short, simple. 3 symbols repeating, not numbers. Coordinates in 3-dimensional space, within the building. Ethan followed the vector mentally. It pointed to the control room. To them, the air pressure changed subtly, enough to pop in his ears. Overhead lights flickered once, then stabilized under a different frequency hum. The descent slowed. Outside, the structure halted roughly 500 meters above the facility. The lower portion rotated, segments shifting like an iris preparing to open. No weapon signatures, no heat buildup, no visible hostility, just intention. The carrier wave thinned to a narrow pulse again, and one final binary sequence emerged. Not complex this time, not layered. 2 digits. 1, 0. The structure above the array hung silently, colossal and impossible, almost defying comprehension. Each segment of its rotating iris seemed to move independently, yet in perfect synchronization, creating a hypnotic geometric pattern against the night sky. The stars had been completely displaced. Nothing escaped the shadow of its presence. Inside the array, instruments went haywire in subtle, precise ways. Magnetic field detectors spiked and stabilized in rhythm with the pulsing carrier wave. Environmental sensors reported fluctuations in microgravity, air density, and electromagnetic resonance, all within safe limits yet unmistakably artificial. Ethan and Maya exchanged glances. It's alive, Maya whispered. Ethan shook his head. Not alive. Organized, intentional, calculated. The hydrogen line receiver emitted a narrow, oscillating tone. Each pulse aligned perfectly with the array's internal clocks, effectively synchronizing all onboard systems to the unknown structure's frequency. Ethan realized the structure wasn't attacking. They were being integrated. On the display, the binary sequence updated again, longer this time. Symbols streamed across the screen in a pattern too complex to decipher in real time. Yet a faint fractal geometry emerged as Ethan overlaid the digits. The shape was unmistakable. It matched the iris above them down to the angular proportions. A low hum reverberated through the concrete floors. Even the chairs and tables vibrated subtly. Maya gripped the edge of a console. It's adapting to us. It's not just observing, Ethan corrected, voice low. It's interacting. The dark iris shifted again. Small tendrils of energy, faintly visible on infrared sensors, extended downward toward the array. Not dangerous, not destructive. Investigative, probing. They were measuring, mapping, and communicating. Through the static of the carrier wave, another sequence appeared on the main console. Integration 37%. The two of them froze. The structure above wasn't finished, far from it. Ethan felt a strange pulse in his chest, synchronous with the binary transmissions like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. Maya stiffened, her eyes wide. Above, the iris began a slow, deliberate rotation. It wasn't mechanical, not in any sense they knew. It seemed organic yet precise, responding to unseen calculations that spanned the globe. A third line of binary appeared on the screen. Cognitive interface established. Neither of them spoke. Outside, the desert wind returned as if the structure had released its influence, leaving only a profound silence. They weren't being watched anymore. They were being synchronized. And this was only the beginning. The colossal iris above the array rotated slowly, each segment moving with deliberate precision, casting shifting shadows across the desert below. The stars that had vanished returned only partially, fragmented by the structure's immense presence, creating a surreal, fragmented night sky. Its vast form seemed impossibly large, yet weightless, hovering silently, its dark metallic surface reflecting faint starlight in irregular patterns that made it appear almost alive. Inside the array, every instrument was synchronized to its pulse. Magnetic field detectors, environmental sensors, and quantum arrays vibrated in perfect unison with the carrier wave. Ethan and Maya felt the subtle pressure in their chests again, like a heartbeat shared across miles of desert, tying them directly to the structure above. Maya leaned closer to the monitor. "It's mapping more than the array," she said, voice trembling. "It knows the world." Ethan swallowed. "Not just the world, us, humanity itself." The hydrogen line receiver pulsed rhythmically, each beat aligning all internal systems with the structure's frequency. Data streamed across the main console in layers of binary, fractal geometries emerging as sequences unfolded. Ethan overlaid the numbers visually, the iris above them, the projections below. Every line matched perfectly. Infrared sensors revealed faint tendrils of energy extending downward. They didn't touch anything directly but seemed to interact with the array's systems as if reading them. They measured, probed, and integrated, almost like neural connections forming with the equipment and, through it, with the humans. Another line appeared on the console. System integration 68%. Ethan's pulse matched the frequency. Maya's hand hovered over the keyboard, frozen. The structure above wasn't just present. It was conscious of its connection. It adapted in real time, responding to their every micro-movement, their systems, their very thoughts. The iris rotated again, slower now, revealing subtle patterns on its surface. Light bent and shimmered along its edges, refracting like a prism, shifting the desert shadows beneath into complex, ever-changing geometry. The pulse intensified. The low hum filled the room, vibrating instruments and bones alike. Every clock, every gauge, every sensor ticked in perfect harmony. Humanity had become part of its pattern. The final line for now appeared on the console. Cognitive synchronization initiated. Outside, the desert wind ceased once more. The night sky settled into an eerie calm. Ethan and Maya realized with a cold certainty that nothing about Earth or its systems would ever be the same. The structure above wasn't just observing, wasn't just mapping, it was integrating, and they were inside its design. The massive iris above the array had fully unfolded now, each segment rotating with impossible precision, casting long, shifting shadows across the desert. The fragmented stars returned gradually, but the night sky remained surreal, distorted by the sheer presence of the structure. Its dark metallic surface reflected faint starlight in patterns that seemed to move and shift, giving it an almost sentient quality. Inside the array, every instrument vibrated in perfect synchronization with the carrier wave. Magnetic field detectors, environmental sensors, and quantum arrays pulsed rhythmically, resonating through the building. Ethan and Maya felt it in their chests, a shared heartbeat of energy connecting them to the structure. Maya's eyes stayed glued to the monitor. "It's not just observing the array. It's interacting with every system on Earth," she whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Not systems, civilization." The hydrogen line receiver pulsed faster now, each beat forcing all internal systems into alignment. The console streamed layer after layer of binary sequences, forming complex fractal patterns. Ethan overlaid the data visually. Every line, every angle mirrored the iris above, creating an integrated grid across both the sky and their instruments. Infrared sensors showed faint tendrils of energy probing the array. They didn't touch physically but seemed to read everything, adapting in real time. It was establishing a neural connection, linking equipment and them to itself. Another line of binary scrolled across the main console. Integration 87% complete. Ethan felt his pulse synchronize perfectly with the signal. Maya's hand hovered above the keyboard, frozen in awe. The structure above wasn't static. It adapted, predicted, and responded to their movements, their systems, their very thoughts. The iris rotated slower now, revealing intricate geometric patterns etched on its surface. Light bent along its edges, refracting across the desert in shifting mosaics. Every clock, sensor, and instrument ticked in harmony with its rhythm. Humanity, unknowingly, had become part of its design. The low hum deepened, vibrating walls and floors. The pulse grew, synchronizing them further. Outside, the night was eerily calm. Every shadow, every flicker, felt calculated, intentional. Finally, a new line appeared on the console. Cognitive and system synchronization 9%. Ethan swallowed hard. It's almost done, almost fully integrated. The desert wind stopped. Silence enveloped the array. They understood now. They weren't just observing the structure. They were part of it. And Earth itself had been rewritten into its design. The colossal iris above the array hovered silently, impossibly vast, its segmented surface rotating with absolute precision, casting intricate, shifting shadows across the desert below. Stars reappeared only partially, fragmented and displaced, creating a surreal, almost alien night sky. Its metallic sheen reflected faint starlight, giving it a living, sentient quality that defied comprehension. Inside the array, every instrument pulsed in perfect synchrony with the carrier wave. Magnetic field detectors, quantum arrays, environmental sensors, and even the building's steel framework vibrated subtly, resonating with the unknown structure's rhythm. Ethan and Maya felt the pulse in their chests, a shared heartbeat linking them directly to the structure above. Maya whispered, "It's complete, it's done." Ethan's eyes stayed fixed on the display. Not done, integrated. The hydrogen line receiver pulsed faster and stronger than ever, forcing all onboard systems into perfect alignment. Binary sequences streamed in dense layers across the main console, forming fractal geometries that mirrored the iris above. Every angle, every line, every pattern perfectly synchronized with the building, the desert, and the night sky. Infrared and electromagnetic sensors revealed energy tendrils probing deeper into the array. They didn't physically touch anything but measured, read, and adapted to every micro-movement. The structure had established a complete neural link, equipment, systems, and humans, fully synchronized. Another line scrolled across the console. Full integration, 100% complete. The hum deepened, vibrating the floor and walls, felt like a heartbeat across the desert. Clocks, instruments, and sensors ticked in absolute harmony. Humanity was no longer merely observed. They had become part of the structure's design. Outside, the desert night was calm yet alive, shadows shifting in precise, calculated rhythms. Light bent and shimmered along the iris's edges, creating dynamic mosaics on sand and stone, as if the structure were painting the landscape with its presence. The final pulse reverberated through the building, stronger, steady, and final, all systems locked into its rhythm. A message scrolled slowly across the console. Coexistence protocol active. Humanity integrated. Monitoring continues. Ethan and Maya exchanged a long, silent glance. The truth settled over them. They were no longer alone, and the world would never operate the same way again. Above, the iris rotated one last time, calm, perfect, and watchful. Its presence was now permanent, a sentinel in the night, silently weaving Earth into its design. The desert lay quiet. Humanity had been rewritten. The colossal iris above the array hung like a dark sentinel, impossibly massive, its segmented surface rotating with deliberate precision. Each rotation cast shifting geometric shadows across the desert, fracturing the night sky into surreal, fragmented constellations. Stars reappeared partially displaced, as if the cosmos itself had been rewritten to accommodate the structure's presence. Its metallic surface reflected faint starlight, shimmering with subtle variations that suggested a consciousness beyond human comprehension. Inside the array, instruments and systems vibrated in perfect resonance with the carrier wave. Magnetic field detectors, quantum arrays, environmental sensors, and even the reinforced steel floors pulsed in synchronization, producing a hum that was almost tangible, a shared heartbeat linking all inside the facility to the structure above. Ethan and Maya felt the pulse deep in their chests, an inescapable connection to the alien intelligence, now integrated into Earth systems. Maya whispered, "It's complete, but I can feel it. It's expanding." Ethan's eyes never left the display. "It's more than integrated. It's weaving itself into everything." The hydrogen line receiver pulsed with extraordinary intensity. Binary sequences streamed across every monitor, forming fractal geometries that perfectly mirrored the iris's patterns above. Every angle, line, and rotation of the structure corresponded exactly to the data streaming into the array. The synchronization wasn't limited to the facility, it reached outward, touching satellites, power grids, communications networks, and even biological rhythms detectable in local populations. Infrared and electromagnetic sensors revealed energy tendrils descending from the iris, probing deeper into the facility and interfacing with systems in ways that defied traditional physics. They measured, adapted, and responded to every micro-adjustment in real time. Humanity, infrastructure, and the environment had become components in a vast neural network orchestrated by the structure above. Another line appeared on the console. Global synchronization initiated, monitoring and adaptation active. Ethan's pulse matched the wave perfectly. Maya's hand hovered over the console, trembling. The iris rotated slowly, projecting patterns of light and shadow across the desert floor. The air shimmered faintly. The temperature, humidity, and magnetic fields subtly adjusted. Every measurement now aligned with the structure's internal rhythms. Outside, the desert night was eerily still, yet alive with energy. Shadows bent in calculated ways. Starlight shimmered along the edges of the iris, painting the ground. Above, the iris rotated once more, deliberate, perfect, and watchful. Its presence was permanent. It wasn't just a sentinel. It was now the framework into which Earth itself was integrated, silently observing, learning, and adapting. The desert lay quiet, but the world would never be the same. The desert night stretched endlessly, silent except for the subtle hum resonating from the iris above. It hovered, impossibly massive, a geometric sentinel perfectly synchronized with Earth's systems. Its segmented surface rotated slowly, each movement deliberate, casting shadows that fractured the sand and rocks below into constantly shifting mosaics. Stars flickered and bent as if the cosmos itself had been rewritten around it, giving the sky an alien, fragmented quality. Inside the array, instruments continued to pulse in perfect harmony with the structure. Magnetic field detectors, quantum arrays, environmental monitors, all synchronized. Ethan and Maya felt it in their bones. The building, the desert, and even their own nervous systems were part of the rhythm now. The pulse of the iris above had become a heartbeat that connected them directly to the intelligence orchestrating it. Maya whispered, voice tight, "It's complete, everything, and aligned." Ethan shook his head slowly. "Not just aligned, integrated. Humanity is a component now. The world itself is woven into its design." The hydrogen line receiver thrummed with deep intensity. Binary and fractal sequences streamed across the consoles, faster now, yet every line corresponded exactly to the iris's structure. Each angle, each rotation, each shadow reflected in the monitors. The synchronization extended far beyond the array, into satellites, global communication networks, electrical grids, even local biological rhythms. Every system on Earth now moved in perfect resonance with the iris above. Faint energy tendrils descended from the iris, brushing against the facility's exterior, connecting invisibly with instruments, systems, and structures. They weren't destructive. They were integrating, mapping, learning, adapting. Humanity, the environment, technology, they were all nodes in the iris's network. Another line appeared on the main console. Full coexistence achieved, synchronization complete, monitoring continues. Ethan felt his own heartbeat merge subtly with the pulse. Maya's hand hovered, trembling. Outside, the desert wind had died completely. Shadows stretched in perfect geometric alignment. Starlight shimmered along the iris's edges like a living projection. The iris rotated once more, deliberate, slow, perfect. Its metallic surface caught the faint light, reflecting patterns that shifted subtly, like the slow breathing of a colossal organism. It was watchful, patient, eternal. The pulse gradually softened, leaving a resonance that vibrated in everything: the air, the sand, the instruments. The final binary sequence scrolled across the console. Earth network node active, observation and adaptation ongoing, humanity integrated. Above, the iris rotated one last time, calm, precise, and eternal. The desert lay silent. The world had changed forever, and somewhere, deep within the structure's unseen core, it continued to learn. Time resumed, but nothing on Earth would ever be the same.